Tahoe frowned and pulled up the historical records. The last council contact with this world had been 500,000 years ago. At that time, humans were primitive creatures who had barely mastered basic flight technology and were still burning fossil fuels. The evaluation team had classified them as a species of minimal galactic potential and moved on to more promising worlds. Could the readings be an error? Tahoe asked. No, sir. We've run 3 separate scans. Something is generating massive amounts of energy throughout this system. The patterns suggest advanced technology, possibly Class 9 or higher. Tahoe's antennae twitched in disbelief. Class 9 was beyond what even the oldest council races had achieved. It was theoretically possible but had never been observed in practice. Prepare a reconnaissance team. Full stealth protocols, he ordered after a moment of thought. 3 days later, Tahoe watched as the small reconnaissance ship returned to the arbitrator. From the hasty communications they had sent ahead, something extraordinary had been discovered. The team looked visibly shaken as they entered the bridge. Senior Officer Minnie approached Tahoe and handed him a data crystal. You need to see this for yourself, Commander. Tahoe inserted the crystal into the main console. The view screen filled with images that made the entire bridge crew fall silent. Massive structures orbited Earth, space stations larger than cities, shipyards constructing vessels of impossible design, and energy collectors that dwarfed anything in the Council's arsenal. This can't be right, Tahoe whispered. These humans, they were nothing when we found them. There's more, said Minnie. Their civilization isn't limited to this system. We detected communication relays and travel networks extending to at least 47 nearby star systems. They've built an empire while we weren't looking. Officer Doyen, the team's xenobiologist, stepped forward. Commander, we observed their biological signatures as well. They've changed themselves. Some appear fully organic, others have extensive technological integration, and some, he hesitated, some appear to exist partly in energy form. The bridge fell silent. Such transformation went beyond technology into something the Council's scientists had only theorized about. Did they detect you? Tahoe asked sharply. We maintained stealth protocols throughout the mission. Minhee assured him. Our ship was fully cloaked using. The ship's alarm suddenly blared, cutting off her words. Unknown vessel approaching. Called the tactical officer. It appeared from nowhere. No warp signature, no distortion field. On screen, ordered Tahoe. The view screen showed a sleek vessel approaching the arbitrator. Its hull seemed to shimmer with patterns that hurt the eyes if viewed too long. It was relatively small, perhaps 1/5 the size of the Council ship, but sensors indicated energy readings that made no sense. They're hailing us, said the communications officer. Tahoe straightened his uniform. Accept the transmission. The screen changed to show the interior of the approaching vessel. A human stood there, or at least what humans had become. The figure appeared mostly human but with subtle differences that suggested extensive genetic engineering. His skin had a slight luminescence, and his eyes shifted colors as he spoke. Greetings, representatives of the Galactic Council. I am Captain Doyon of the Earth Federation vessel Remembrance. We've been expecting your return for quite some time. Tahoe tried to hide his shock. You knew we were here. Captain Doyon smiled. We detected your ship the moment it entered our territory 3 weeks ago, and we recognized its design as belonging to the same collective that visited us 500,000 years ago. How is this possible? Tahoe asked. Your world was primitive when last contacted. Yes, we were, Doyon acknowledged. Your explorers determined we had limited potential and moved on. That judgment motivated us. Commander Tahoe stood on the bridge of the massive Galactic Council vessel Arbitrator, his eyes fixed on the strange readings appearing on the main display. The ship had been mapping this remote sector of space when their sensors picked up unusual energy signatures from a system that should have contained nothing of interest. Commander, these readings don't make sense, said Officer Juu, her fingers moving rapidly across the control panel. According to our database, this system contains only one notable planet, designated Terra or Earth by its inhabitants. Another alarm sounded on the arbitrator's bridge. The tactical display now showed hundreds of vessels appearing throughout the system, surrounding the council ship in a perfect formation. "Perhaps," said Captain Dodian, his voice calm but carrying an unmistakable weight, "it's time for a new assessment of humanity's potential. We invite your diplomatic delegation to our flagship Prometheus for discussions. After 500,000 years, we have much to talk about." Commander Tahoe stood nervously in the transport chamber of the arbitrator with his small diplomatic team. They were about to step onto a human vessel, something no council member had done in 500,000 years. "Are we sure about this?" whispered Officer Juwu, adjusting her translator. "Their technology is unknown to us." "We'd have little choice," Tahoe replied quietly. "Our ship is surrounded. Besides, they could have attacked if that was their intention." The transport pad hummed to life, and the world dissolved around them. There was a brief sensation of floating. Then they rematerialized in a vast chamber unlike anything they had ever seen. The walls seemed alive, shifting with subtle patterns of light. The floor beneath them was solid yet somehow yielding to their steps. Most striking was the absence of visible technology. No control panels, no screens, no obvious machinery. "Welcome to the Prometheus," said a voice. A human woman approached them. She wore a simple white uniform with no insignia or rank markings. Her movements were fluid and graceful in a way that suggested enhancement beyond natural biology. "I am Ambassador Suna. We are honored to receive the Galactic Council after so many years." Tahoe performed the formal council greeting. "I am Commander Tahoe of the Arbitrator. We did not expect to find your civilization so advanced." Suna smiled. "Few do. Please, follow me." She led them through corridors that seemed to form as they walked and closed behind them. They passed humans working in spaces that defied conventional architecture, rooms where objects floated freely, chambers where matter seemed to flow like water, and gardens where plants grew in impossible configurations. "This is impossible," muttered Doyen, the xenobiologist. "Your mastery of physical space violates known laws of physics." "Not violates," corrected Suna. "Expands upon. The laws you know are merely a subset of a larger framework." They entered what appeared to be a command center, though it contained no visible controls or screens. Captain Doyun stood in the center, conversing with several officers without speaking aloud. "They're using direct neural communication," whispered Juwu in amazement. Captain Doyun turned to them. "Welcome aboard. I trust Ambassador Suna has made you comfortable. Please, join us." Comfortable seating formed from the floor as he gestured. The council delegation sat cautiously. "You have questions," stated Doyun. "We will answer them honestly." Tahoe gathered his courage. "How did your species advance so rapidly? It should be impossible." "Necessity and determination," replied Doyun. "After your explorers left, declaring us unworthy of contact, we intercepted their transmissions. We learned we were not alone in the universe, but had been judged and found lacking." "You intercepted secure council communications?" asked Juwu in disbelief. Suna smiled. "They were not as secure as you believed. This knowledge changed our development trajectory completely. United by the revelation of alien life, our civilization focused on advancement. But 500,000 years is still too short for this level of development," insisted Doyen. "Because you think linearly," said Doyun. "Approximately 300,000 years ago, we experienced what we call the convergence, when our biological and technological development began to accelerate each other exponentially. A holographic display formed in the center of the room, showing the curved line of human advancement, slowly rising at first, then shooting upward in a near-vertical line. After the convergence, we transcended biological limitations, merged with our artificial intelligences, and began exploring dimensions beyond conventional space-time," continued Suna. "Progress became rapid. And you've been watching us all this time. asked Tahoe. Yes, acknowledged Doyan. We established observation posts throughout the galaxy. We studied the Council and its member species. We learned your languages, customs, and technologies. Why did you not contact us sooner? Asked Juwu. Suna's expression grew serious. We needed to be certain of our position. The Council's dismissal taught us a valuable lesson about power imbalances in diplomatic relations. And now? Asked Tahoe hesitantly. Now we are ready, said Doyan. We wish to establish formal relations with the Galactic Council as equals, not as supplicants. A door opened at the far end of the chamber, and a new figure entered. Unlike the others, this human appeared older, with silver hair and eyes that seemed to hold impossible depth. This is Supreme Director Junsu, introduced Suna, our highest diplomatic authority. Director Junsu approached with a warm smile. Commander Tahoe, welcome. I hope you will convey to your council that Earth extends its hand in friendship. We remember being alone in the universe. We have no desire to isolate others as we once were isolated. However, he continued, his smile fading slightly, we also come with terms. The old order of the galaxy must change. All species deserve the chance to reach their potential, as we have reached ours. Tahoe swallowed hard, suddenly understanding the true purpose of this invitation. This wasn't merely first contact renewed. It was the beginning of a new galactic era. Councillor Jinwu paced nervously across the polished floor of the Grand Chamber. Around him, representatives from 63 spacefaring civilizations murmured among themselves. Many looked worried. Some appeared angry. A few seemed excited. Order. Order in the chamber, called High Elder Gunbi, her amplified voice echoing through the vast space. The chamber slowly quieted. All eyes turned to Jinwu, who now stood at the central speaking platform. Esteemed colleagues, he began, his voice steady despite his anxiety. I have called this emergency session to discuss the reports from Commander Tahoe's expedition. As you have all read, the situation is unexpected. Unexpected, shouted Councillor Haijin of the Luminary. She rose from her seat, her bioluminescent skin flashing with emotion. It is impossible. No species advances from primitive to Class 9 in mere 500,000 years. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. The evidence is clear, replied Jinwu. The humans have not only achieved spaceflight, but have expanded beyond our technological understanding. They have established colonies across dozens of systems. Science Director Kyungo stepped forward, activating a holographic display in the center of the chamber. Images from Tahoe's expedition appeared. Massive space stations, ships that seemed to phase in and out of reality, and humans with varying degrees of technological integration. Our preliminary analysis suggests they achieved a technological singularity approximately 300,000 years ago. Kyung-ho explained. What followed was unprecedented acceleration in both biological and technological development. They must have had help, insisted another counselor. Perhaps the Forerunners, or the Void Walkers. No evidence suggests outside intervention, replied Kyung-ho. All indications point to independent development. Are they hostile? Asked a nervous representative from the Moldar Confederation, a relatively young species that had joined the Council only 1,000 years ago. Jinwu sighed. Unknown. But they've had centuries to attack if that was their intention. Instead, they've invited a formal diplomatic mission to discuss terms for joining the galactic community. Terms, echoed several voices in disbelief. Yes, confirmed Jinwu. They wish to negotiate the conditions of their integration into the Council. Laughter erupted from several of the older Council members. They wish to dictate terms to us, said Councillor Taiwan of the Vorde Empire, his facial ridges darkening with amusement. A single species against the combined might of the Council. Let them try. High Elder Umbi raised her hand for silence. Let us not be hasty. Commander Tahoe's report indicates technology far beyond our own. We should consider this carefully. I propose we send a full diplomatic fleet, suggested Jinwu. Show both our respect and our strength. The Council voted, and 3 weeks later, the Council's flagship, Eternal Wisdom, led a fleet of 30 vessels toward Earth's solar system. The journey took 17 days through hyperspace, with each day bringing growing tension among the counselors aboard. Counselor Haijin joined Jinwoo on the observation deck as they prepared to exit hyperspace. "I still believe this is some form of trickery," she said, "perhaps an illusion created by primitive minds desperate for attention." Jinwoo did not respond. The ship shuddered slightly as it returned to normal space. The view screen activated, showing their position just outside Earth's solar system. What they saw silenced even the most skeptical counselors. Surrounding Earth and extending outward to the system's edge was a defensive grid of satellites and vessels that dwarfed their own fleet. Ships of impossible configurations moved with grace through the void, some seemingly phasing in and out of normal space. "By the ancients," whispered Jinwoo. "What have they become?" A proximity alert sounded. A human vessel was approaching, far larger than any they had seen in the reconnaissance images. It was beautiful and terrifying at once, its hull shimmering with patterns that suggested it existed partially in another dimension. "We are being hailed," announced the communications officer. The view screen changed to show a human woman with subtle enhancements visible beneath her skin. She bowed slightly. "Greetings, representatives of the Galactic Council. I am Ambassador Suna of Earth. Welcome to our home system. We've prepared accommodations for your delegation aboard our diplomatic station, Harmony." "Your defenses are impressive," managed Jinwoo. Suna smiled. "Merely precautionary. We've studied the Council's history with new species and noted several instances where diplomatic solutions were bypassed in favor of more direct approaches. The implications were clear. The humans knew about past Council military actions against uncooperative species. We come in peace," assured Jinwoo. "As do we," replied Suna, "which is why we've disabled your weapon systems for the duration of your stay. A simple precaution, I'm sure you understand." Jinwoo turned to the tactical officer, who checked his console with growing alarm. "She's right," the officer confirmed. "All weapons are offline. We didn't even detect the intrusion." Jinwoo turned back to the screen, trying to mask his fear. "We look forward to productive discussions." "Excellent," said Suna, her smile never wavering. "Your council has ignored us for 500,000 years. Now we have much to discuss about the future of the galaxy." The council delegation followed Director Woojin through the massive orbital facility circling Jupiter. The station was nearly the size of Earth's moon, yet moved with impossible grace through space. The aliens walked carefully, still not fully trusting the artificial gravity that felt both familiar and subtly different from their own technology. "This is one of our smaller bioforges," explained Woojin, his voice calm, as if showing visitors a simple garden rather than a marvel of engineering. "Here we design new forms of life and improve existing ones." Science Director Kyung-go stared through a transparent wall at the chamber beyond. Inside, humans worked alongside machines that seemed to flow like liquid. They were creating something, a new organism that glowed with internal light and shifted between solid and energy states. "What are they making?" asked Kyung-go, unable to hide his fascination. "A new form of coral for deep space habitation," replied Woojin. "It produces oxygen, filters radiation, and provides structural support for our deep space outposts. It's partially energy-based, which allows it to draw sustenance directly from background radiation." Energy-based life. Counselor Haijin stepped closer to the window. "That's impossible. Life requires physical form." "That was our understanding too, once." Woojin nodded with a small smile. "We transcended the carbon-silicon divide roughly 200,000 years ago. Many of our citizens now exist in multiple states simultaneously." He guided them to another section of the facility. This chamber was filled with what looked like medical pods. Inside each pod was a human body, but strangely still, as if empty. "What is happening here?" asked Jinwoo nervously. Before Wujin could answer, one of the pods opened. A woman stepped out, stretching as if waking from a pleasant nap. Her previous body remained in the pod, now clearly just an empty vessel. "Body transfer complete, Director Wujin," she said pleasantly. "The new muscular enhancements are functioning perfectly." Wujin nodded to her as she walked away. "Death is now optional for us," he explained to the shocked aliens. "We can transfer our consciousness between bodies as needed. Some citizens have lived for over 200,000 years, changing bodies as one might change clothes. But what happens to the soul?" asked one of the religious counselors. "An interesting question," replied Wujin. "We discovered that consciousness is more fluid than once believed. It can be stored, transferred, even merged temporarily with others. Some of us choose to experience existence as pure energy for periods of time." The tour continued to a massive chamber that appeared to be some kind of transportation hub. Humans stepped onto platforms and simply vanished, while others appeared from nowhere. "Our dimensional folding network," explained Wujin. "It allows instant travel between any points in our territory." "Without ships?" asked Kyung-ho in disbelief. "Ships are still useful for first explorations and diplomatic missions," Wujin said. "But for established routes, direct transfer is more efficient." In another area, they'd witnessed humans interacting with beings that seemed to be pure light. "Are those aliens we haven't met?" asked Jinwoo. "No," said Ambassador Suna, who had joined the tour. "Those are symbiotic AI constructs. They evolved alongside us, developing their own form of consciousness. We exist in partnership. You gave your machines freedom." Haijin looked horrified. "We gave them life," corrected Suna. "And they chose to remain with us. Just as some humans choose to become more machine-like, some machines choose to become more human. The boundaries blurred long ago." The final stop was a sealed chamber deep within the station. Special permission was required to enter, and the council members were scanned extensively before approval. Inside was a small room with nothing but a cube floating in the center, about 1 meter on each side. It glowed with a soft blue light. "This," said Wujin with evident pride, "is perhaps our greatest achievement. Within this field, we are manipulating the fundamental constants of physics." Kyung-ho stepped forward, his scientific curiosity overcoming his caution. "What do you mean?" "In simple terms, we are rewriting the basic rules of reality within this space," explained Wujin, "altering the strength of gravity, the speed of light, even the binding energy of atoms." "But that would require—" Kyung-ho trailed off, unable to complete the thought. "Yes," Suna said softly. "It would require understanding the universe at a level beyond conventional science. We achieved that breakthrough approximately 150,000 years ago." Counselor Haijin, who had remained skeptical throughout the tour, finally asked the question that hung in everyone's mind. "How?" she demanded. "How did you advance so rapidly when it took the rest of us millions of years?" Ambassador Suna's expression grew somber. "Necessity and determination," she replied. "When your explorers deemed us unworthy of contact, it lit a fire in our collective consciousness. We were alone in the universe, so we had only ourselves to rely on. Being judged inferior became our greatest motivation." She gestured around the facility. "Everything you see began with a simple question that burned in our minds for millennia. How dare they decide our potential?" The council members fell silent, many now understanding for the first time the consequences of their civilization's arrogance. The grand meeting chamber aboard the human diplomatic vessel Prometheus was unlike anything the council representatives had ever seen. The room adjusted itself to the comfort needs of each species present. Temperature, gravity, and even atmospheric composition varied subtly around each delegate. Supreme Director Junsu stood calmly at the center of the chamber. Though he appeared physically human, his presence carried a weight that made even the oldest council members pay close attention. Behind him stood Ambassador Suna and a small team of human representatives. "We have shown you only a fraction of what humanity has become," Junsu began, his voice clear and measured. Not to threaten, but to establish understanding. After 500,000 years of separation, our paths converge again. Counselor Jinwoo shifted uncomfortably in his seat. The tour of human capabilities had deeply unsettled the council delegation. Many now feared what these former primitives might demand. "What exactly do you want from the council?" Jinwoo asked directly. "A new beginning," replied Junsu. "Earth offers the Galactic Council full access to our medical technology, dimensional transportation networks, and energy production systems." Excited whispers spread among the delegation. Such technology would solve problems that had plagued council species for millennia. "In exchange," continued Junsu, his tone firming slightly, "the council will restructure to eliminate species-based hierarchies and guarantee equal developmental rights for all newly discovered civilizations." The chamber fell silent. This wasn't a negotiation. It was a complete overhaul of the system that had governed galactic politics for millions of years. "Impossible," declared Councillor Hyjin. "The hierarchical structure exists for good reason. Younger species lack the wisdom to determine their own destiny," interrupted Director Minji, stepping forward from the human delegation. "That was the judgment passed on humanity. We were deemed unworthy of contact, denied knowledge of the greater universe. And look what became of us," added Suma. "Imagine what other species might achieve if not arbitrarily restricted." Junsu raised his hand, and the holographic center of the room activated. It showed dozens of worlds, each with developing civilizations. "These are species currently classified by your council as primitive or developing," he explained, "each with unique perspectives and potential contributions to galactic knowledge." "And if we refuse your terms?" asked Jinwoo carefully. "Then we will continue our independent development," replied Junsu calmly. "But know that we have already established relations with 12 civilizations the Council deemed unworthy of contact. They are now our closest allies." Images appeared of species the Council had cataloged but not contacted, now showing clear signs of advanced technology, clearly human-influenced. "You interfered with their development," accused Hyjin. "That violates the very principle you claim to defend." "We offered them choices," corrected Minji. "We shared knowledge freely and let them determine their own path. Some chose rapid advancement. Others preferred slower integration. All chose their destiny rather than having it decided for them." The council representatives looked at each other uneasily. The implications were clear. Humans had been operating beyond council authority for thousands of years. "We remember what it was to be dismissed," said Junsu, his voice softening. "To be deemed insignificant. We have vowed never to make that same mistake. Every species has potential if given the chance to realize it." 3 days of intense debate followed. The council was divided. Some saw opportunity in alliance with Earth. Others feared the end of their privileged position in the galactic hierarchy. By the 4th day, a decision was reached. 42 council species accepted Earth's terms immediately. 17 more followed reluctantly. Only 4 refused outright, declaring they would rather stand alone than accept the new order. 1 month later, the Treaty of Earth was signed, establishing the new Galactic Alliance. For the first time in millions of years, the rules governing interspecies relations changed fundamentally. The age of hierarchical control ended, replaced by a system of mutual development and cooperation. On the observation deck of the Prometheus, Ambassador Suna stood with Commander Tayo, watching ships from dozens of worlds moving through Earth's space. Among them were vessels from newly contacted civilizations, experiencing their first taste of interstellar travel. 500,000 years ago, your people couldn't imagine what we would become," she said quietly. "And now we cannot imagine what comes next," replied Tayo. Suna smiled. "That's the beauty of it, Commander. Neither can we, but we'll discover it together." In the years that followed, the galaxy transformed. Knowledge flowed freely between civilizations. Species that had been deemed primitive revealed surprising insights when given access to advanced technology. The few holdouts from the old council eventually joined the alliance, unable to ignore the benefits of cooperation. As for humanity, they continued to explore the boundaries of the possible. Having reshaped the galaxy's political structure, they turned their attention to even greater mysteries: the nature of consciousness itself, the origins of the universe, and realms beyond conventional dimensions. The judgment passed on Earth 500,000 years earlier had been proven spectacularly wrong. Humanity had not only survived, but had become the force that reshaped galactic civilization. Not through conquest, but through the simple, powerful idea that every species deserves the chance to reach its full potential.